Well, good day and welcome back to our study of the book of Mark. We're still in chapter 8, and today in lesson 33 we're going to do just 3 verses, verses 31 to 33. Now, if you've been following along, you've known that Jesus and along with the disciples have visited a number of places, and in each one of those places Jesus performed miracles. In a place near Bethsaida, he fed 5,000 men, plus women and children. He went to Tyre and Sidon and did a miracle there, then crossed over again and came back down to Decapolis, where he fed 4,000 men, plus women and children. And then went back to Bethsaida and he healed a blind man in that area, each time saying, "Do not tell anyone of what occurred." Yet the disciples were still somewhat unsettled and unaware, because when they were in the boat after the last feeding, they complained because they had no bread. And Jesus looked at them somewhat perplexed and said, "Have you no eyes to see? Have you no ears to hear? Do you not understand what's been going on?" They saw Jesus do all these miracles, and yet they still did not really comprehend what was going on. So on their way again out of Bethsaida, Jesus, and back to a Gentile area near at the borders of Galilee, Jesus asked the questions which we went through in the last lesson. "Who do men say that I am?" And the disciples all answered, they thought he was a reincarnated John the Baptist or Elijah or Jeremiah. They just didn't understand again who he really was, because even though they had seen all the miracles, all the events, all the happenings, it never dawned on them his real character and real nature. And then he asked Peter, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter gave the answer that he was hoping for, which gave him some insight, because Peter said, "You are the Christ. You are the anointed one. You are the one who had the anointing from God." Peter seemed to understand that he was from God, perhaps not that he was God incarnate, but that he was from God. So Peter said, "You are the Christ. You are the Christ. You are the anointed one." So Peter seemed to understand that he was the one from God, one of God. He perhaps not that he was God. But then we get into this section where it says, "Jesus then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things." The Son of Man is a title which Jesus usually uses in association with his impending death, or about his impending death, at least in the book of Mark. So Jesus began to teach them now about what was going to happen. And Jesus said that the Son of Man must suffer many things. And he rejected and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He gave them the plan that was going to take place, the plan of his death and his burial and his resurrection. Now, it's quite possible that the disciples did not really hear the last part of this. They only heard that he was going to suffer and be rejected and be killed. And he spoke this to them openly. So this was not a secret, but this was given to his disciples as they traveled to this Gentile area on the border of Galilee. Peter then reacted. Peter, who had said just a short time before that he said, "You are the Christ, the anointed one." Peter now took Christ aside. Peter took him aside and rebuked Jesus. He rebuked Christ by saying that this was not going to happen. He rejected this. He rejected this idea. He did not understand God's plan, and he did not want to accept it. And is that not just like the rest of us? We don't like what God's plan is, so we try to remake God in our image and get him to do what we think he should do about many things. This is what Peter was trying to get Jesus to do, because he did not want Christ. He could not believe that if Christ was the Messiah, that he was going to die and be put to death. So Peter took him aside and rebuked him. But Jesus was not going to have any of this. He then openly rebuked Peter in front of the disciples, rest of the disciples, saying, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are not mindful of the things of God." We can't interpret what God does or is going to do. We are not mindful of the things of God. Jesus said to Peter that you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of man. Peter did not believe that Christ was going to die. If you go back to the very first book in the Bible, Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, Satan tempted Eve by saying, "Did God indeed say?" Has God indeed said? Did God really say what you think he said? And Peter is doing the same thing here in a sense. Jesus, whatever you meant to say, I don't really think you mean to say that. This is not going to happen. This is not going to be the way it is. I will protect you and not let it happen, is what he's really implying. And this is why Jesus told Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." Get behind thee, Satan. Because he's implying towards him, towards Jesus, the same thing that Satan applied towards Eve. Did God indeed say this? Is this God's real intention? The point is, we want to make God often in our image, what we want him to do and to be like and to happen. We want the world to evoke and evolve the way we want it to happen and evolve, not in God's way and in God's manner. And this is the whole point of this. Peter was trying to get Jesus to do what he thought should be done, rather than accepting what God and Jesus said had to be done. And because the action and the implication is the same as it was back in Genesis, Jesus said, "Get behind thee, Satan, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but of the things of man." You want things done man's way. You think things should be done according to your way of thinking, not God's. And this is part of the whole problem with the world today. We want things done our way and not God's way. "Get behind me, Satan," he said, because this is what God has said would happen. It's not Satan saying, "Did God indeed say that?" We have to believe what God himself tells us and accept God the way the Bible and he presents himself, and not the way we think it should be done. So this is the whole idea of this little section, that Peter rejected God's way to a way he wanted for himself, even though he recognized God, and Jesus as the Anointed One. So, this is where we end this today. We'll get on to the rest part of this chapter next week, hopefully, if everything aligns, if there's no storms and nothing to interrupt us again. So this is all for today. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me again next week. Bye for now.